Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 506 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, not only ask you to agree with me, I'm asking you to hear me out. Before we move on, before we even start, I want to make it very clear. The main reason why the Thunder find themselves up 3-0 against the Minnesota Timberwolves is because they're that good of a team. When we talk about these all-time great teams, we shouldn't be shocked when they have all-time great performances. Yes, the Minnesota Timberwolves beat them by 42 points in Game 3. I acknowledge that. But that doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that the OKC Thunder is they're playing at an all-time level. So that is the main reason why the Oklahoma City Thunder find themselves up in this series 3-1. But with that being said, let me talk about Anthony Edwards for a second. Let me start this by talking about Anthony Edwards. One thing that we know, and one thing that when situations like this happen, when a series gets out of hand, when one team is up another or one game away from advancing, that's when the blame game starts to happen. And look no further than, obviously, most people pointing their attention to Anthony Edwards. And you're asking yourself, how is it that you can consider Anthony Edwards a superstar, or how do people consider Anthony Edwards a superstar, yet and still he's getting overshined, not just by the Oklahoma City Thunder, but by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the other star that is on the other team? When you look at Game 4, the Oklahoma City Thunder won 128-126. Anthony Edwards had 16 points, shot 5 for 13, 1 for 7 from 3. I want to first make this very clear. Anthony Edwards will one day, with his skill set, the way that he approaches the game, he will win an MVP one day. I don't have any question about that. And in the same breath, outside of Game 4, or outside of Game 3, Anthony Edwards has struggled with consistency in this series. One thing that we have to understand, and one thing that needs to be made clear, is there's a reason why there's different levels in school. There's a reason why there's kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way up to 12th, and then obviously some people go to college. It's a clear indication of advancement. It's a clear indication that you have successfully gotten to the point where you get to this certain grade, and once that you have shown and demonstrated that you are smart enough or you have done enough to advance, you then advance. Anthony Edwards, and we should look at almost everyone's career like this. Anthony Edwards is in school, and he hasn't gotten to the 12th grade yet. What I mean by that is people forget that there is areas to grow. Like Anthony Edwards I think he's in his 4th or 5th year. You're not a complete player in 4 to 5 years. especially when you were in college for 1 year. Now, no, I'm not shooting Anthony Edwards any bail. I'm just telling you that two things cannot be true in this instance. You can't say that the Oklahoma City Thunder is an all-time team. They're such a great team, and then wonder why Anthony Edwards is struggling against this team. One of the biggest reasons why we say that the Oklahoma City Thunder is an all-time team is because of their defensive pressure. It seems that every single time, in fact, the craziest stat is this. In game 4, Oklahoma City Thunder double-teamed Anthony Edwards 100% of his drives. I'll say that one more time for people that don't understand. Anthony Edwards was doubled 100% of his drives. That means every single time he drove the ball, he saw a double team. I just said that Anthony Edwards will one day win an MVP. He's that talented. He has that much charisma. I think he is that good. But I also understand that he is not at his peak yet. He's still learning the game. He's still young. Do I think that he is the Batman of that team? Yes, he is the leader. But I do also think that there is areas to grow. One thing that I do know, if you look at the Western Conference Finals from last year to this year, Anthony Edwards looked extremely different. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, didn't he look better last year? Yeah. But the Dallas Mavericks, they're not known for their defensive pressure. They were known for having a great offense in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Anthony Edwards has never seen this amount of pressure, this amount of attention in a series. And one thing that we do know about an NBA series, a playoff series, is they're going to expose your faults and they're going to expose your feats. And Anthony Edwards, this is just yet another year of growth. He is going to have to learn how to adjust, how to deal with a defense that is solely focused on him. And on top of that, because I'm sure almost every defense is focused on him, but this good of a defense being solely focused on you, he's going to have to learn how to do that. You see, people look at Luka, people look at LeBron, people look at those KD, when you come in and you're already that good. Not everyone is that. Now, I'm not saying that Anthony Edwards won't get to that level, but what I'm saying is not everyone is just a fully cooked turkey year one. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are down 3-1, not because Anthony Edwards is the main reason. It's because they're playing up against a great team, a team that a lot of people think, including myself, will win the NBA championship. In the same breath, though, Anthony Edwards has to be more consistent. And he said something at the end of this game, at the end of game 4, that showed me where the growth needs to happen the most. One thing that we talk about, and one thing that we do know, is every team goes into a game with a game plan. If you don't have a game plan, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. You want to be prepared. And Anthony Edwards says something. He said, no, I didn't. I think I played the way that I was supposed to play. We had a game plan, and shots just didn't fall, and they were an incredible team. And he was speaking on how he can only take 13 shots in a game 4, or how he was 1 for 7, so he only taken 7 threes, and he was the league leader in 3-pointers made this year. And how he only had 16 points in a game where obviously they lost. I'm not putting this on the coaching staff. But what I'm saying is there's a reason. Now, you can also look and say, well, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they actually played an okay game. Jaden McDaniels had 22 points. Dante DiVincenzo had 21. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 23. And they got to 126. Obviously, they lost by 2 points, but it was a solid game. And I'm not putting Game 4 loss solely on the back of Anthony Edwards, but what I'm saying is there are times when you have to say to hell with the game plan, give me the ball. It felt like that's what he was doing in Game 3, and they destroyed the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, yes, I do think a lot of that was, everyone was shooting the lights out the ball, and I don't think that's necessarily, you can contain or you can continue that, but Anthony Edwards is going to have to be confident enough to be like, to hell with the game plan, give me the ball. And I feel like there have been a lot of times, and we saw that last year, there are a lot of times where he just confides to the game plan. And sometimes the game plan isn't the best game plan to have in that moment. It's all about adjustments too. That's kind of that's one thing that's been plaguing the Minnesota Timberwolves this entire series. It doesn't seem like, you know what? Let me not say that. Let me say this. One of the beauties of being Robin is that you never get the blame as heavily as Batman would get, as heavily as the main person will get. You see that all the time. You can lose a series, but you're not going to blame the second option more than the first option, because the first option is the first option for a reason. Oh, man. And as much as it pains me to say, and it pains me to say this because I gave this man, I did a segment on him. He has been incredible majority of these playoffs. But another reason, and I would honestly say that this reason is even more prevalent than Anthony Edwards. Another reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves are down 3-1 right now is because of Julius Randle. I know. I stood on this table and said that Julius Randle was having an exceptional playoffs, which he was. I said that Julius Randle was the main reason why they find themselves in the Western Conference Finals, and I believe that. He was incredible against the Lakers. He was incredible against the Warriors. But if you want to point blame, Julius Randle is one of the biggest reasons, if we're talking about solo blame, one of the biggest reasons why the Minnesota Timberwolves find themselves down 3-1. You know why it's also important? Oh, not important. Let me say this. You know why it's also great to be Robin is because you don't have the responsibility to carry the team. What you do have, though, is the responsibility to be as consistent with your game as possible. Because as much as it's not talked about, your consistency helps the main person. Now, not everyone's role is the same, but Julius Randle has been consistently inconsistent this series. He'll have 28 points one game, 6 points the next. 28 points the next game, 6. What does he have? 5 points in game 4. So we even have an explosion game or nothing. What we're seeing is if Julius Randle allows the game to dictate, or allows the game to dictate his mood. If he's not hitting, and as we saw in game 4, he wasn't hitting early, so he just started floating. He was just there. The aggressiveness that we've seen all playoffs was gone. We also saw that in game 2. I want to make it clear. again. We're not here, meaning we're not here in the sense of the Thunder being up 3-1 because there's something wrong with Minnesota in a sense. We're here because the Oklahoma City Thunder is a dominant team. However, what is also true is this is just another learning step in Anthony Edwards' basketball life. That he's going to have to learn how to be consistent. And he's going to have, because I think that he is a star. I think that he is already a superstar. In fact, I'll say this. I don't know if he's a superstar because one thing that we do know about superstars, they are consistent. But he is damn close to one. But he's going to have to learn how to be aggressive and how to be continuously aggressive in situations like this, where you're going up against a great defense and they're solely focused on you. On top of that, as much as I praise Julius Randle is a lot to blame for why this Minnesota team is down 3-1. I think if Julius Randle was playing at his best, they'd still be down. But he's been far from his best this entire series. I'm not gonna say playoffs, this entire series. You're watching one team that has it dialed in and everyone is playing to their ability in the Oklahoma City Thunder compared to a team that has just been inconsistent this series. Because I don't think what we saw in Game 3 when we saw the Minnesota explosion, I don't think that's really them. But what we did see in Game 3 or Game 4 could be them. Again, they lost by 2 points. With Julius Randle only having 5 points and Anthony Edwards only taking 13 shots. So, we'll see. I'm not going to kill Anthony Edwards, and I'm not going to say that, he's the main reason for this. He's not. And I'm also not even going to say he's the main reason that they lost Game 4. I want him to be more aggressive, but you're playing against an all-time team. I want to talk about something really quick. It seems like I've been focusing heavily on Oklahoma City Thunder, and rightfully so. They are a great team. And I've also been focusing on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And also rightfully so. The man just won the MVP, right? And he deserved the MVP. You know how they say style make fights? What that necessarily means is everyone has a style. And there are times where whatever your style is, whatever the style that you're married to, may not be the style that is the best to winning that game or winning that fight. On top of that, sometimes your style isn't the most glamorous. Sometimes your style isn't the most loved, isn't the most beautiful. But that doesn't mean it's great. Every single time I have this conversation, I bring up two people. I bring up Tim Duncan and rest in peace, but Kobe Bryant. And I think that those two is a perfect demonstration of what I'm trying to say. And I'm going to bring it back to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a second. When people have their all-time ranking lists and when people, do their top 10s and everything, a lot of times you hear Kobe Bryant. And I'm not here saying you're right. I'm not here saying you're wrong. But a lot of times when people give their top 10, you hear Kobe Bryant's name. And the name that you very rarely hear, you hear it sometimes, but not most of the time, is Tim Duncan. And outside of points and rebounds, Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant's career looks eerily similar. It goes back to the styles. Tim Duncan didn't have a flashy game. Hell, they called him Mr. Fundamental for a reason. He just did the fundamentals to a T, and that got him the rings that it got him. That got him into the Hall of Fame. That got him recognized as one of, if not the greatest power forwards to ever play the game. But it wasn't a pretty game. He never had a beautiful game in a sense of flashiness. When you go over to Kobe Bryant, he was all flash. And I'm not saying that this is bad. None of it is bad. Jump shots, fadeaways, dunks. Kobe was the epitome of flash on the court in a good way. Tim Duncan was not. So when people remember both of their games, Kobe is going to be more prevalent because he was more flashy. People loved Kobe Bryant, even though when you look, Kobe and Tim Duncan's, at least accolades, are eerily similar. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander he has the skill set to be an all-time player. This season, he individually had an all-time performance. This is one of the best offensive seasons we've seen from a player. But no one is going to look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's season and think, oh, this season kind of mirrors, James Harden when he won the MVP, or Russell Westbrook when he won the MVP. Or I can even take it broader. When we talk about James Harden and his career, when we talk about Russell Westbrook and his career, no, Shai Gilgeous hasn't done enough, but his game can rival those when it's all said and done, but we won't say that. In fact, when we talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's game, all you hear is free throw merchant, and he manipulates the ref too much, or he doesn't have a great game. You could recognize that he's great, but his game is not a beautiful watch. In Game 4, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 40 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. In fact, I don't think there's been a game in this Western Conference Finals where he scored less than 30. Outside of Game 3, where they just got obliterated. As crazy as it is, even in today's game, I think Shai Gilgeous' game is going to go down and lean more towards the Tim Duncans than the Kobe's. In a sense of, not a lot of people like not a lot of people like to watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But that doesn't mean he's not great. You can call him a free throw merchant. What I'll say is, his game is predicated on old school principle. He's trying to get to the rim. And he's also exposing the fact of defense isn't really taught that much anymore in basketball. People do not know how to stop the drive as much as they used to. And a lot of that is because they don't really have to. The way that the game is played is mostly jump shots. But if you look, he took 30 shots. 7 of them were threes. In fact, as a team, The Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 4 took 37 threes. That's not a lot for a team to get 128 points. I don't think he's a free throw merchant. I think what he's doing is he's exposing the fact of a lot of people don't know how to play solid defense. And he's putting immense pressure on the refs and saying, yo, I'm showing you this is a foul, bro. And if they're going to continue to guard me this way, they have no shot. I'm going to get to the line. Again, from a person that just won the MVP, from a person that is as gifted offensively as he is, because he is one of the best offensive players in the league. He doesn't have a flashy game. His game is just straight to the point. And you're like, how can a person that led the league in scoring with like 33 points a game not flashy? It's not. As crazy as it is, and this is one of the biggest reasons why I think the Oklahoma City Thunder is going to win this year's championship, is they aren't reliant on just the sheer greatness of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because he had 10 assists and 40 points. Shai, as great as he is, and I think that he, when it's all said and done, he could very well find himself in that James Harden range and that Russell Westbrook range, in the sense of we view them a certain way offensively. I'm not going to say, he's going to be better than them, but let me articulate it better. When it's all said and done, that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the opportunity to be one of the best offensive players the league has ever seen. But even when you hear me say that, and I think that the way that his game is, when it's all said and done, that's going to be people are going to say that's a blasphemous statement, just because the flashiness is not there. People love flash. People love excitement more than they like steadiness. They like consistency. Shai Gilgeous is great. And people hate to admit it, which I get. I get it. Because again, it doesn't look the way that you want it to look. You want to call him a free throw merchant. No, he just drives to the rim more than Bro, he drove to the rim just himself more than the Minnesota Timberwolves as a team. So, of course, you're going to get, how many free throws did he do? Of course you're going to take 14 free throws. You probably should have had more. Again, he's shining a light on the fact that a lot of people don't know how to play defense. A lot of people don't know how to play defense without fouling, let me say. And he is, I'm not even going to say manipulating. What he's doing is he's taking advantage of knowing that. And you're forcing the hand of the ref to, you have to make a decision, ref. Either you're going to let them foul me, or you're going to call it. And 9 times out of 10, the ref has been calling it. Again, Shai, I think, is going to go down as one of the best offensive players we've ever seen. But no one is really going to think that, because he doesn't have the flash or the style. Remember, for the longest, they were calling James Harden a free throw merchant. Do I think that there are some times where he embellishes? Yeah. Shai Gilgeous embellishes sometimes, but not as much as people say he is. I think he's legit. I'm watching the games. He's getting fouled. And he, along with the Oklahoma City Thunder, is 1 win away from the franchise's second NBA Finals appearance. So we'll see. Oh, I do want to talk about that too. Because now the conversation is getting real. Obviously, youth plays a part. And everyone is like, well, he's young. This team is young. They're one of the youngest teams in basketball. I don't think that they're championship ready. They look eerily similar to last year where they got bounced out the second round. This year ain't that year. And when talking about Shea, the question is arising, if he brings a championship to Oklahoma City Thunder, which a lot of people, including myself, think he will this year, does that make him the greatest Thunder ever? Now, obviously, that's putting him up with names like Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. Both have won MVPs for the franchise. Both they both were on the championship or NBA Finals team back in 2012 or 2012. I'll say this. As an all-time great player, as all-time lists go, in my opinion, no. I think that it's going to take a lot to overcome. You see, a lot of people don't like Russell Westbrook. I realize that because, again, it goes back to style. Russell Westbrook plays a style that a lot of people don't like to wrap their arms around, which I get. It's a very abrasive style. It's a very in-your-face style. Russell Westbrook is the epitome of just a ball of energy. And the thing about a ball of energy, you can throw a ball in a room and you can throw it up against the wall. And if it's like one of those bouncy balls, you know it's going to bounce everywhere, but you can't really determine the trajectory of it. Like, oh shoot, like where's it going? That's Russell Westbrook. Once you throw it up against the wall, you're going to get something. You just don't know where it's going to go. But I do take account the fact that I think it was 4 times, he finished 4 seasons of his career averaging a triple-double. I think it's either 3 or 4 times. I think that he is one of the greatest point guards we've ever seen just because he does things that other people can't. No, I don't know if his style ultimately leads to winning, but he's still great all in all, and I think he's still an all-time great player. And Kevin Durant, that just goes without saying. I think he's one of the greatest offensive players we've ever seen. In fact, I'll even say top 3. So when we talk about all time, no, I don't think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to, him winning a championship for the Thunder makes him an all-time great player, or makes him all-time better than Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. But when we talk about the Thunder, I do think that people are going to look at it and say that, well, as great as Kevin Durant was for the Thunder, as great as Russell Westbrook was for the Thunder, Shai Gilgeous did something that neither one of them could, and that was lead a team to and ultimately win a championship. I think the way that Kevin Durant left did, I'm not going to say irreparable damage, but there are still people that hasn't gotten over that. Understandably so, but I do think that is the case. And I think because of that, there will be people that have never and will never get over that. They should, but they won't. And on top of that, Russell Westbrook had some explosive, incredible seasons after that, but they never led to any winning on the grand level. He got to, the playoffs, but they would get bounced out the first. Russell Westbrook didn't see the second round of the playoffs till he went to the Houston Rockets, if I'm not mistaken. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this will be the second year, him as the primary force of that team that not only are they making a deep playoff run, but this is looking like this is going to be the year that they win a championship. So to answer it directly, I think that people will look at him as the greatest Thunder of all time. Because right now, I think the list is Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. In a sense of, if we're talking about those three, the who the fans think is the best Thunder. Even though I would go Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Shai, people don't like how the ending with Kevin Durant happened. So I think that once Shai wins the championship, he's going to have an MVP. He's going to have a championship for the Oklahoma City Thunder, something that the franchise has never had. I think it's going to bump him up to first. Maybe not first all time in a grand scheme of things, but first as a Thunder. Because at that point, you brought the organization their first title. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Anything can happen. Speaking of anything can happen, let's move over to the East. As I'm recording this, it is Tuesday evening. Game 4? Yeah, game 4 of the Oklahoma's 3. Game 3 of the Knicks and Pacers haven't happened yet. I think it's going to happen in about an hour or two. So I don't know what the results are for game 3 yet. Or game 4. I'm sorry, game 4. But as we speak, the Pacers find themselves up 2-1. Could have been 3-1. Oh no, could have been 3-0. But they find themselves up 2-1 in the Eastern Conference Finals. I said that it could have been 3-0 because they were up 20 points in game 3 and ultimately lost. Karl-Anthony Towns had an incredible, he had 20 points in the fourth quarter and they lost. And game 3 really exposed the issue that the Pacers have. And I said game 3, the one game that they lost in this series, because, like I said, winning masks a lot. It's hard to really tell what's what when you're winning, especially winning the way that the Pacers were winning. But we knew defensively they're not a great team. They get defensive stops when they need to at times, but they're not a great team. They really only have 2 solid defenders, and that's Nesmith and Miles Turner. But on top of that, one thing that I'm noticing is they play at 1 speed the entire time. 1 speed. Now, that was beneficial to them because in games 1 and 2, the Knicks tried to match that speed, and it just didn't work. They don't have the horses. They don't have the personnel to match that speed. But they play at mock speed the entire time. Now, when they're hitting shots, it's a great thing, beautiful thing. Nothing wrong with it. Great. They're an incredible team, and they can very well find themselves in the finals. But like game 3, and even in game 3, when they were hitting, they were up 20 points. But do you realize that they never... Well, they took their foot off the gas, but not because like they were trying to play smart and slow the game down. It's just because they felt the win was in the bag. It's like, damn near everyone was in foul trouble for the Knicks. They felt like they had it. But then Karl Anthony Towns happened in the fourth. On top of playing at one speed, shout out to Gil's Arena. They pointed it out. The stark difference between the Knicks and the Pacers is the person that has the ball the most on both teams has a different perspective of the game and has a different approach of the game. Meaning, Jalen Brunson has the ball most of the time for the Knicks, but in his mind, he looks at it as, I'm looking to score as much as I can. Because Jalen Brunson's superpower, like we talk about on this podcast, is scoring. He's a scorer of the basketball, one of the best. He has the ball in his hands the most. However, the person that has the ball in his hands the most for the for the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, his goal and his mindset is not score, it's let me set someone else up. The person actually that has that mentality is Pascal Siakam and Nembhard. The issue is, though, they're not as aggressive as they should be, and they can't because they don't have the ball in their hands a lot. I'm not saying that, again, I don't know what happens in game 4, and I'm not saying that is just going to kill the Pacers' chances. But even when you see Tyrese Halliburton does get into scoring mode, that's not the best option for the Pacers because he is, there's not another person on that team that can orchestrate the offense like Tyrese Halliburton. And there's also there's nobody on that team that can really go get a bucket like Pascal Siakam. The difference is, however, goes back to what I was saying about Julius Randle. Pascal Siakam isn't as aggressive as he should. Maybe it's because he doesn't get the ball in his hands, but I just don't think he has a score first mindset or be the man mindset. This Pacers team, they are a great team. But they do have flaws that can ultimately derail their chances. Because trust me, again, I don't know what happens in game 3, but game 3 is a big game. But yeah, man, again, shout out to Gil's Arena and Gilbert Arenas and the crew. They really pointed out the two people in this series that have the ball in their hand the most views the game and their skill set is different from each other, and we're seeing that. And I also, going into it, I also said that the Robins were going to be the reason why they either win or lose. Pascal Siakam and Karl Anthony Towns. But what we're seeing is a game of styles. And the Pacers play with a dangerous style. But when I say dangerous, it can either be their greatest asset or it could be their biggest detriment. Because of the person that has the ball. The person that has the ball as much as he has, he's not looking to score. So if he passes it to you and you're not hitting, that's what the Pacers couldn't. I think they were like 5 for 30 or something from 3. They couldn't hit a 3 to save their life in game 4 or game 3. That's not, you can't play at a warp speed like that. Your best player continues to pass the ball, get it around, and you're not hitting. Especially going up against a team that isn't hitting themselves, but there are more. I mean, you have 2 players in Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson that are just going. Which also brings me to the Knicks. I think the Knicks' biggest issue outside of defense, because I thought the Knicks were that was going to be their superpower compared to the Pacers, because the Pacers don't really play any defense. I thought the Knicks were going to be better defensively with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby. They haven't been great defense at all. A lot of the threes that the Pacers miss is just because they miss them. It wasn't because the defense was just splendid. But I think an issue that has arisen, at least for this series, I don't think it's going to, I don't know what happens in game 4 again, but an issue that has arisen is because Jalen Brunson has the ball in his hand a lot, Karl-Anthony Towns is not as aggressive. In fact, the times where Karl-Anthony Towns has been aggressive has mainly been when Jalen Brunson's been on the bench, either for foul trouble or just because he needs to get a breather. This team does not have a shot if they're going to continue to play your turn basketball, your turn, my turn, because Mikal Bridges, he's been okay, but he ain't, OG Anunoby, he's been inconsistent, and Josh Hart, you know what you're going to get from him. They need, and I don't know if they're able to, because that's just how both Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson plays. Jalen Brunson needs the ball in his hand, and Karl-Anthony Towns also needs the ball in his hand. So if they continue to play this your turn, my turn thing, that's not helping the team. Again, Karl-Anthony Towns had 20 points in the fourth quarter in game 3, mainly because Jalen Brunson was struggling. He had 5 fouls, so he was on the bench most of the time. Now, yes, he did come in and hit some big shots, but still, if that gives the Pacers such an advantage, because it's like, all right, if one's going off, the other one isn't going to go off because the other one's not going to get the ball. That helps them defensively. And I went into this series saying that Karl-Anthony Towns was the X factor, because as we saw him scoring 20 points in the fourth quarter, they don't have a player, even in Miles Turner, they don't have a player that can stay in front of Karl-Anthony Towns consistently. But they do if Karl-Anthony Towns is just watching Jalen Brunson play do what he do offensively. So I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm seeing it. That's interesting. Again, I'm recording this before game 2, or game 4. I'm sorry. So I don't know what happens in game 4, but by the time you hear this, it would already have happened, and we'll see. But as of right now, as I'm speaking, this is the game of the series. I'll go as far as to say this. If the Knicks win tonight, if the Knicks win game 4, and again, this is before it happens, if the Knicks win game 4, they're going to win the series. I know it'll be 2-2, but you essentially snatch the momentum back. If the Knicks win game 4, they win the series. If the Pacers, whoever wins game 4 wins the series. I stand on that. I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, I'll come in here and say it, but whoever wins game 4 will win the series. We'll see. Speaking of we'll see, I want to talk about, I want to go over to the W real quick. And I want to talk about Angel Reese. Because there's been a lot of talk around her, understandably so. This, and I will preface this by saying that this talk has nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. I know Caitlin Clark is out. She had a little dust. I'm not talking about that. I want to talk solely about Angel Reese and her game. Because you look at clip after clip after clip that goes around, her game is been just dissected and just picked apart. And I'm going to be as objective as possible because I actually like Angel Reese. I support. I mean, you can like it or not. I don't care. I support everyone black. So I'm not here bad mouthing. I'm not here, chastising. I'm not here spreading any narratives. What I'm doing is I'm talking about what I'm seeing when I watch Angel Reese play. There are a couple things that I want to preference before I continue. One, Angel Reese is the best player on the Chicago Sky. That's clear. She is the best player on the Chicago Sky. Now, I will admit that it doesn't seem like the Chicago Sky really have a direction. And they don't really have that good of a team. Ariel Atkins hasn't been great. Haley Van Lith hasn't been. Nobody's been great on this team, including Angel Reese. But she is the focal point of this team. I will also preface this by saying that she does have an all-time great talent, and that is her rebounding. You can say what you want about her rebounding, which I understand, but she is a great rebounder. That is her superpower, is rebounding the ball. The way that she can track the ball, the way that she can box out, the way that she knows how the ball is coming off the rim. She is a great rebounder. And that is her superpower. That is her strength, rebounding the ball. You can have a great career off rebounding and defense. Look at Dennis Rodman. Look at Rudy Gobert. But with that, there's been a lot of racial commentary around Angel Reese. That isn't this. And there's also been a lot of people that really just don't like Angel Reese just because of her popularity and her seemingly attraction to the limelight. This is not this at all. Or this is not that at all. After last season, I think it was on her own podcast, Lisa Leslie came on and said that Angel Reese, needs to work on her layups and needs to essentially work on her offense because it is not where it could be. Not saying that she can't be great or it was never going to be good, but it's not where it could be. I also want to remind people that this is her second year in the league. And I know that because of everything that happened in college and how the draft went and, as unfortunate as it is, their names are always going to be synonymous with each other. That's Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Their games get compared to a lot, which it shouldn't. But again, this is year 2. And I'm not saying, kind of like Anthony Edwards, I'm not saying that she needs to be a complete package in year 2. She shouldn't be I don't know the best probably player that I can think of that came out of college and that was good year 1 and year 2 was probably Candace Parker. But I will say this, when you look at Angel Reese's game, it doesn't look like she's improved at all from last year. Now, I'm not going to talk about her extracurriculars because I don't know what she does on her extracurriculars. I don't know how much she's in the gym. So I'm not going to say she's not even in the gym. I don't know. But what I do know is when I look at her game, she shoots 30% this year. 30% I know there's only 3 games, but she's shooting 30% from the field. To put that into perspective, out of 10 shots, she's making 3 of them. And she is right next to the rim. And she's averaging 5 turnovers a game. What I'm saying is this. I don't think we've seen, obviously, the final form of Angel Reese because, she's only been in year 2. But it is disappointing when I look at her because it was acknowledged on her own platform that she needs to improve with her layups and finishing around the rim. And again, I'm sure she has a trainer. I'm sure that she's been in the gym, but it doesn't look like it. Look, 3 games into the season, it looks like her game has not improved in the slightest. She's still great at offensive rebounds. She's still great at rebounds in general, but it doesn't seem like her game has improved. And that's one of the biggest reasons why the Chicago Sky are 0-3, because they're running their entire offense around her, which they should because she is the best player. But when you're not improving in the way that you should be improving, in the way that the best players should be improving, when you're not really good at the little things. You're great at rebounds, but you're not good at the little offensive things. Driving the ball, finding your lanes, finishing at the rim, finishing through contact. When you can't do that, which she has not been able to do this season, I know it's early, but still. This was an issue last season, and it's still an issue this season. Again, I'm not expecting her to be a finished product, but what I'm expecting is improvement. When you're a lottery pick, I'm expecting improvement, and I haven't seen any improvement from Angel Reese from last year to this year. She still has an opportunity to be a great player. And I think for the objective critiques and for the objective fans, that's been an issue. Every single time people have seen her, it's been on a platform outside of basketball, whether it's her podcast, whether it's the Met Gala, whether it's photo shoots, and that's cool. Because obviously there's certain parts of the day who I don't know how. I'm sure she's been in the gym. I don't know how long she's in the gym, but I'm sure she's in the gym. You get paid to play. You're in the gym. But at least 3 games in, I don't know what you're working on, because I'll even go as far as saying her offensive game kind of looks worse now than it did a year ago. And I want nothing more for Angel Reese to succeed. She's black. She's from Maryland. Like, I want her to succeed. But at this rate, at this rate, I haven't seen her offensive game improve at all. At all. And I think that's the biggest issue, is because because she was this great she was just great rebounding wise last year. Hell, I think she broke the record for most rebounds in a season by a player, or most double or something like that. I just don't know where the offensive improvement has come. I don't know where that is. And if she's going to be the focal point of the Chicago Sky, which she obviously has been, there's a reason why they're 0-3 now. And again, I'm recording this before they play the Phoenix Mercury, who is 3-1. They're probably going to lose that game. So I just want to see her be better. Chicago needs her to be better. And I know she's still young, but when I look from year to year, there has been absolutely no improvement offensively. And that is the issue. Lastly, before we go, I want to talk about the Vegas Aces. And I want to talk about the margin of error. Because I never would have thought that a team that arguably has the best player in basketball that has Joel Lloyd, that has Chelsea Gray, that has Jackie Young, all of which has won championships. I didn't think that the margin of error would be as low or as small as it is for a team with that much firepower. It's still early in the season. And I know I picked them to at least make it to the NBA or WNBA finals. It could still happen. They're 2-2, But there are glaring issues with this team. As great as she is, there should not be a world where A'ja Wilson leads in every statistical category for this team. Even when you have Chelsea Gray, even when you have Jackie Young, even when you have Joel Lloyd, A'ja Wilson should not lead in every statistical category for this team, even though she's still great. There shouldn't be a scenario where they lose by like 30 points. And I don't understand the Seattle Storm is good, but you lose like 30 points to Seattle. I understand that Kelsey Plum is not there anymore. I understand that, they lost a lot on their bench. But I never would have thought that a team that's won multiple championships, I'll say that, has such a small margin of error. Because when I look, they're nowhere close as a team. Again, the season is early. But they're nowhere close to the Minnesota Lynx. They're nowhere close to the New York Liberty. They're honestly nowhere close to the Seattle Storm or Phoenix Mercury. And they have the best player in basketball, arguably. Again, I know I picked them to at least make it to the WNBA championship, and I'm going to stand on that pick. But right now, that is looking like an all-time bad pick. I understand that there are games where you just don't have it. Understand there are games where, long road trips, you just don't have it energy-wise. You just don't have it. That shouldn't be game 2 or 3 in the season. I think it was game 3 where the Vegas Aces lost by 30 to the Seattle Storm, I believe. Where they're in a dogfight with the Washington Mystics, who have been better than advertised. So shout out to them, but that is going to be an issue. I don't know if they have to make some moves, but Jewel Lloyd hasn't been as good as nobody outside. Let me not just put on Jewel Lloyd. Outside of A'ja Wilson, nobody on the team has really been consistent. Jackie Young, I know she's dealing with or trying to get better from injury. Chelsea Gray, but still. A team that went into the season with the best player in basketball, arguably, has damn near the thinnest margin of error. That is crazy. We'll see what happens, but right now, the only reason why I would call them a title contender is because they have A'ja Wilson. Because it doesn't seem like anyone else has played up to the caliber as which they thought they would play. Just saying. And there you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate all you guys. If you can, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe. If you are subscribed and you know someone that's not, please send it. I'm trying to grow as much as possible, and I cannot do it without you guys. So all my YouTube followers or all my YouTube watchers, please subscribe. Also, DSPs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, anywhere you get your DSPs, anywhere you want to hear this luscious voice of mine, please follow, please subscribe. It also means a lot. I'm trying to grow the podcast all around, and I cannot do it without you guys. If you are subscribed, please, again, share it to somebody that's not, that you think would, want to listen, and hopefully they can subscribe as well. So, yeah, please follow and subscribe, all my DSP listeners. All my socials, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, please follow. I post pretty much daily. You have reels, stories. That's probably the best way to get to me. If you keep it respectful and you want to share your take, I don't mind going back and forth. It just means that you're listening to me and you have an opinion. Both are very important to me. Again, you leave it in the comments. Keep it respectful, and I don't mind going back and forth. Please follow the socials. Until next time, much love.